Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be previewing a fun rogue deck, which is based on the new Aggron from Twilight Masquerade, and we're going to be pairing that with Dodrio. So Aggron, for 1 energy, does 50 damage for each of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it, and of course Dodrio, with its Swimming Draw ability, puts 1 damage counter on itself for you to draw a card. So the idea of the deck is to establish multiple Dodrio, use the Zooming Draw ability, which then powers up Aggron's attack, Angry Slam, which maxes out at 300 damage. And that's if you had damage counters on all 6 Pokemon in play. So next I'm just going to go through some of the card counts and give a bit of context before we move on to a match. So we've got the thick Aggron line, it's a 4-1-3 line because this is our main attacker. We want to be attacking with this in the early to mid game. There is an argument to move up to a 4-2-3 line because you're playing the TM Evolution, but I just couldn't find the space. I've then maxed out the Dodrio line at 4-4 just because this deck is so dependent on Dodrio for both damage and draw, so I've used the full 4-4 count to sort of maximise the odds of getting these into play. Then we've got the 1 Rotom V, which is pretty standard for stage 2 decks. It just bails you out if you're not able to find the Arvin, or if you go first you can nest ball for the Rotom V and get a bit of extra draw in there. Moving on to trainers then, you'll notice that it's a very consistent list. I've gone for the full 4 Arvin, the full 4 Buddy Buddy Puffin, the 4 Ultra Ball, and the 4 Nest Ball. So we're playing a very consistent count here just to try and maximise the odds of getting the Dodrio into play. In terms of other supporters, then we've got the 2 Iono. I think there's probably an argument to play more than that, but you do have the Dodrio for draw, so we're really just playing this to try and disrupt your opponent or to help you set up in the early game. 3 bosses orders is fairly standard. I don't really want to go to less than 3 because you need to be able to find it when you need it. That's all the supporters. Onto other trainer cards. So we've got the 2 switch just because the Aron, Leiron and Aggron all have 2 or 3 as their retreat cost, so we need to be able to switch them out of the active if they get trapped. 3 Rare Candy, I'm not playing the full 4 because we're playing the TM Evolution, although there is an argument to go up to 4 because a lot of the time you do use the TM Evolution to get into 2 Dodrio. 2 Earth and Vessel just because if you need to use Arvin to find your energy, I'd rather be playing the 2 instead of 1 in case it is prized. 1 Super Rod is pretty standard for consistency or recovery. Then we have the most important card of the deck, the Damage Pump. So the problem with Dodrio is while this ability does allow you to put damage counters on itself, it can't put damage counters on any of your other Pokemon. And the problem with that is that it limits the Angry Slam damage from Aggron. So say for example, if you have 3 Dodrio in play, you can use the Zooming Draw ability to put damage counters on those 3 Dodrio, but your other Pokemon in play won't have any damage counters on them, which means your Angry Slam damage is limited to 150. But using the Damage Pump, you can move the damage from the Dodrio onto the Aggron or the Rotom V, and that allows you to get damage counters on all 6 of your Pokemon in play, which then allows you to reach the max damage output with Angry Slam at 300. The other important point to note with Damage Pump is that it also allows you to move more damage counters onto one of your Dodrio, because Dodrio's damage scales with the number of damage counters you have on it. So say for example you have 3 Dodrio and each of them have 30 damage counters on them, you can use 2 damage pumps to move 40 damage onto a Dodrio, and that will power up the Ballistic Beak attack. And that's quite important because most of the time with this deck you want to be attacking with Aggron in the early game, but then you want to transition to attacking with Dodrio once you've built up enough damage counters with Zooming Draw. So I'm playing 2 TM Evolution, again for consistency. Because the deck is so dependent on getting the Dodrios out, I'd rather play 2 rather than 1, just in case it's prized and you Arven for it. I've chosen to go for the Hyper Aroma A-spec in this deck, just because it allows you to get the multiple Dodrios out, but again, you know, you could play any of the decent A-specs, being Prime Catcher, Hero's Cape, and they probably do alright, but this is the one I've opted for, which is just kind of more consistency, which is kind of a theme in this deck. We've covered the boss's orders and we've covered the nest ball, but yeah, very consistent counts. There's nothing too controversial here other than the damage pump, I would say. And then the standard 8 energy, which is complemented by the 2 earthen vessel, but you could probably drop this down to 7 just because you do attack with 1 energy with both Aggron and Dodrio. But yeah, that's the deck, so let's move on to a match. Alright, so that's us into a game. Looks like we're playing against Roaring Moon. We do start, so we can't play the Arven, but we do have the Rotom for a bit of extra draw, and we can get at least 1 duo down. I'm not going to attach the energy just in case my opponent plays a Gusting card and then we don't have the energy for the TM Evolution next time. But I'm going to play down the Rotom. The question is, do we play the Ultra Ball to get another basic into play? I think we potentially do. There's nothing that I really want to discard. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for the Rotom V. I need the rare candy and the energy for next turn. But yeah, the strategy with this deck is basically to try and get your Dodrio established early, which kind of powers up Aggron's attack, which maxes out at 300 damage. And then you want to transition to attacking with Dodrio once you've built up enough damage counters with the Zooming Draw. This Roaring Moon deck is fairly dependent on getting ancient cards into the discard to do damage, although we're not playing any EXs, or, well, our main attacker is not an EX, so it has fairly low HP, which means they don't need that many cards in there. Okay, so I think I'm just going to establish the board here. There's no point in going for an attack at this point because I can't knock out the Roaring Moon even if I get a Dodrio into play. I'll play the Arven, grab the Buddy Puffin, I'll grab the TM Evolution, seeing as we'll only need it once during the game, so I can just discard it with Ultra Ball. I'll play the Buddy Puffin. I think I will need to grab another Aggron here just because we need a backup attacker after this likely gets knocked out this turn. That's the TM Evolution and the energy, and I do want to Ultra Ball. So I'll get rid of the TM Evolution and the rare candy to get a duo. Because if we don't get 3 duo into play, then our damage next turn maxes out at 100, which isn't enough. Okay, then we'll play the. We'll go for Evolution, evolve 2, do duo, just to try and establish that draw. So it's at the 70 plus 10 for each ancient card in the discard, so they're up to 90 at this point, which is more than enough to KO the Aggron. So I'm going to promote the Aggron here. And then I'm going to play the Iona. I don't really want to give them another fresh hands, but well, I was going to send a rare candy to the bottom of the deck, unfortunately, and I've already used one. So I can see if I can draw an Aggron here, or an Ultra Ball. Okay, we did get the Ultra Ball, so that's pretty good. So I'll Ultra Ball the boss's orders and the damage pump. Grab the Aggron. Rare candy, active. Touch the energy. And then we need to find one Dodrio to be able to knock out the Roaring Moon, which we did find. That's good. We've got Buddy Buddy Poffin for an Aggron as well, so I'm just going to grab that now, thin out the deck before you zooming draw. Okay. So this should be enough now. Angry Slam for 150. That's good. We found the rare candy, so increased likelihood of being able to get into an Aggron next turn if they're able to knock us out. They would need 11 ancient cards in the discard, and we're at 3. But between Pokestop and things like Ultra Ball and the like, they can get quite a lot of ancient cards in the discard in one turn. There probably is an argument to going up to 4 rare candy in this deck, but I thought with TM Evolution that 3 would be enough, but a lot of the time you just want to TM Evolution into 2 Dodrio, so 4 might be better. Now it's going to be an issue if they're able to get the Ancient Capsule, because that will put up to 200 HP, and then we need to find a damage pump if they're able to knock out the Aggron. If they just punch the Aggron, then we'll have the 4 Pokemon with damage counters. Yeah, so we've got enough damage to knock out the Roaring Moon because they've attacked into us. That saves us a rare candy as well, because we can evolve into Lairon instead of having to find the Aggron this turn. So I'm just going to zooming draw. So we can thin out the deck of energy, but we don't really want energy in the discard, to be honest. There's no interactions with energy in the discard. Okay, so in that case, we do have the boss play available, but I think it's probably best to take out the Roaring Moon while we can. So we're probably going to be relying on damage pumps to get damage on the Rotom. To try and do a bit more damage in the future turns, but for this time I'm just going to use the Angry Slam. and another energy. So this attack does 100 the second attack, and then an extra 120 if you want to discard the stadium. But the base damage will be enough to knock us out. I guess they promoted this because they think that we can't hit 230, and it is difficult for us to hit that amount. So our possible plays for next turn are that so this is going to get knocked out. We then only have 3 Pokemon with damage counters on them, so we max out 150 without the damage pump. If we use Zipping Draw, we go up to 30, we can then move 40 on, so it's 70 times 3, 210. Still not enough. Okay, so I think what we need to do is find one of our damage pumps and an Aggron. Okay, so we've got a Buddy Poffin. I'm just going to play the Nest Ball. I think a Dodrio is fine at this stage, and this will probably be attacking with Dodrios for the rest of the game. We do have the boss's orders as well. That's another potential play. So I'm just going to play these earthen vessels and thin the deck out of energy to increase the odds that we find an Aggron. Do only have 3 cards to get it unless we draw an Iona. There's damage pump, so that's one of the cards we would need. So we can draw again. We find the Aggron. Okay, so we've got, I think we've got what we need here. So we're gonna evolve into the Aggron. So we can move 10 here and 10 here. And attach one to the Dodrio for now. We could boss's orders, but we may as well not. We may as well just knock out the active and save ourselves one. Then we'll go for Angry Slam, and that will knock out the Roaring Moon EX, and then we should be able to use a double boss play for game. So basically our prize map here is to use 2 bosses to KO the Brute Bonnet and the Huesian Sneasler. So the main thing that we're scared of here is basically a Iona. And we do of course have the sort of inbuilt counter to iron out in the zooming draws, but you know, 3 or 4 cards might not be enough for us to get what we need. Okay, so they got the Ancient Capsule on the Brute Bonnet, which is... oh, they might not be able to attack here. I was expecting them to knock this out. If they're not able to knock out the Aggron, then we've just got the boss play. Okay. Yeah, so I think even if they were able to knock us out there, we would have had a double boss to use on the Brute Bonnet and the Resonation Sneaslet and attack it with Dodrio for the win, but I think we're just going to win here anyway. So we do 300 damage. I'm going to Boss's Orders, the Roaring Moon, and then we're going to Angry Slam for max damage. So yeah, that's the deck in a nutshell. Thanks very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it.